Hello everyone and welcome to another episode from the Paperhats Survival Multiplayer server. My name is Glitch. Well, it is another gorgeous day here in the land of Everbloom, and well, to be honest, I am really fighting the urge to procrastinate on today's project. You see, last time I mentioned that my item collection is getting a little out of hand. But I want to try and remedy that for today. But that's going to take a good bit of work. So before we dive into that, and because, well, like I said, I'm procrastinating, let me give you a couple of quick updates about what's been going on here at the Spawn Inn. So in between episodes, I've been kind of working on some background stuff. I'm still working on things for trying to upgrade the gear for the auto armor station and hopefully the stack dispenser. But one thing that's been very helpful is the wool shop has been doing pretty decent, as well as my stash of Silk Touch books. I've made enough sales that I was able to upgrade the last of my tools and also most of my armor up to diamond level. Now, I mean, being honest, I still need to spend a good bit of time at the zombie grinder to grind up the levels so that I can enchant this stuff. But it's good to have things moving along well, kind of in the game's progression. And that's kind of where we are here. I did some exploring too and just kind of looked around and I think I've got a place that I want to make my base. But yeah, well, before I do that, it's time to face the monster in the room. The chest monster, that is. You see, every time I start a Minecraft world, I always wind up with tons and tons of random chests everywhere. And currently, up in the attic, I have the start of a pretty large collection, but presently I also have two whole organized chests to my name. Yeah, I've got my redstone stuff. I've got my cobblestone and a little bit of stone because I now have silk touch. And I've also got some um dirt that is all organized. The rest of this is that one's not even filled. The rest of this is just a miscellaneous hodgepodge of stuff. And I want to get this taken care of before it gets out of hand. Because at the rate this is going, I feel like it's quickly going to progress to the point where I look like this. And to be frank, I'm worried at some point I'm going to wind up looking like this. So, in an effort to try and get ahead of this, I want to make the first project out at my new base getting a storage system together. So, I think at this point, it's time for a boat ride. Not too much further now. And while this river does go down and around the dark oak forest, we're actually going to cut overland a little bit. Right about here. I saw this on day one and I just absolutely fell in love with this generation. Those of you who have been with me since Paperhats Season 2 when I joined the server, I've always had a deep love for Minecraft's crazy world generation. And when when we were looking around at different seeds and the idea of just kind of getting into this world came up, this little area right here just, oh, I just fell in love with that mountain. Let's see if we can get up there. Looks like it might be a little bit on the difficult side. Yeah, I have some scaffolding. I'm going to come in here to the dark oak forest. Um, Two things really stood out to me with this particular area. Number one, let's hop up here a little bit on top of this mushroom. Okay, we'll go a little bit higher. There we go. The two things stood out to me. One, I have always loved the look of dark oak wood. And I've always wanted to try and take a dark oak forest and just do something with it. But the other thing is, I'm looking at this mountain here, and just the generation just absolutely captivated me. The kind of just the way it's both plateau, it's got kind of the shattered savanna. It really calls back to some of like the very old generation from like the early days of Minecraft. And I'm so thrilled that this is still in the game, floating islands and all. But I think this is going to be where our permanent base is. Now, before I can set up shop, I'm gonna have to clear out some space so that I can start building. So I'm gonna probably do that off camera, and once I've got some room here, we'll move on to the next step. So I will be right back. There we go. That opens up things quite a bit. I have to admit, this took a lot longer than I was anticipating, mostly because these trees, for the most part, touch each other, and there are some really weird leaves hanging on in the background here because, well, there used to be a tree there, but that's actually touching that, so the game doesn't update it, but I will work it out. I cleared all this out because I want to start out with a decently sized building. And I also took the time to go ahead and smooth out and terraform this just into a nice, smooth, flat surface so I've got something to work with. Um, I also took the time to build, well, basically a cobblestone safety box so at least I could get hooked up to the nether and then I can run back and forth to spawn pretty easily. Um, and basically just start moving supplies from here to there. Now, I do have to say that moving my stuff from spawn to here has been more than a bit of a hassle, but some recent events have given me an idea. You see, at the time of this recording, the Paperhats have just opened up the end and fought the dragon like 20 times. So all of the portals to the outer end islands are open and the entire dimension is up for grabs. And because I had some commitments in real life, I wasn't able to make it to the fight. However, that does mean that there's a whole world out there waiting to be explored. And if there's one thing that would help this job to go just a little bit faster, that would be a few shulker boxes. So I think maybe, well, to be honest, maybe it's just a little bit of procrastinating. Maybe I'm just itching for a little adventure. But I think before I get my storage system set up, I'm going to go ahead and do a little end rating. And I think I'm going to do that in the form of a montage, partially because, well, like I said last season, going over the void often triggers my fear of heights. And, well, I don't think I can offer much commentary as I'm trying to get this done. So I'm going to head off to the end, and while I do that, please enjoy a little music from Epidemic Sound. Let's head out and get started. Welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed the montage. Well, I have to say that trip went about as well as I could have hoped. Um, now, my main goal in going to the end was to get my hands on an elytra. And though I'm wearing one right now, that itself wound up being a purchase from Unheard Nightmare. You see, when I got to the end and I got to the outer end islands, I realized something very quickly. Last season, I wound up getting really nervous and I forgot arrows, so it made fighting the shulkers a whole lot harder. This season, on the other hand, I forgot my ender chest. So all of the extra items and all of the things that I brought with me to help me in the journey, well, I guess I can say that they were safe and sound here in the overworld. Now, thankfully, a few of the cities have ender chests as part of their loot. But unfortunately, the only ships that I found had already been looted, and, well, there were no wings for me. And I eventually had to give up because, though it didn't show up on camera, I wound up dying when a bunch of Endermen aggroed on me because I accidentally made momentary eye contact. And, well, the next 30 minutes or so was spent with me trying to find my way back. Now, however, I can point out that this does prove that my redstone assisted recovery system works just fine. I just really wasn't looking forward to being the test subject. The good news is, though, because I was able to quickly get some gear and get back on the road with food and a few things like that, I was able to quickly make my way back because I had taken a screenshot of my coordinates. So I just made my way back and eventually, well, as you can see in the footage, I was able to get my stuff back. But by that time, it was very late here in the real world. So I decided it was time to pack it in and try another day. And I do plan on going back to the end because, well, it's weird. See, bridging over the void really triggers my fear of heights, but for some reason, I can fly over it just fine. But I don't know. Nonetheless, in the end, I was able to get a little bit of loot, and there'll be future trips that I can make down the road. For now, though, now that I've got, about enough shulker boxes to get, say, 12 shulkers, it's time to grab the rest of my gear from spawn, move it over here to the Dark Oak Forest, and work on getting the rest of my storage system set up, as well as a place to house it. So, I'm going to get some materials, and let's get this building project started. Welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed the time lapse. It's been a little bit. For you, it's been a couple of minutes. For me, well, it's been several weeks. Part of that is just because it's been a busy season in my real life between different things like school starting for the family and some projects that I'm involved with in my community. But all the same, I'm glad that my storage system is finally set up because though I haven't had as much time for recording, I haven't been idle. I actually, now that I have an Elytra, went back to the end and wound up getting myself a spare Elytra and um more stuff. So I had more need to, store more stuff. But I also have more shulker boxes to work with. And speaking of boxes, I have to admit, the trend continues that most of my builds wind up coming out looking like glorified boxes, and well, this one's no exception. In fact, this one honestly looks like a storage box, complete with the packing tape and the strips of dark oak slabs I did there. It honestly looks like a box with that's all taped up. But I'll explain that in a second. You see, like I said, it's been a busy time and I was working on the different things for the build. But another thing that occurred to me as I was working on the design for this was my original thought was I was going to take this area and turn it into almost like a magical city. And then that just seemed a little too much for what I just have time to do. But then it occurred to me, I'm in a dark oak forest. I'm building here. I want to make this my permanent home. Um, why should the pillagers have all the fun? So I think that this storage unit is going to be the start of my own custom woodland mansion. What that finally is going to look like, I'm not entirely sure. But let me go ahead and show you around at what we're starting with. Now for the entrance, I went with my old 2x3 piston door. It's just an old favorite and it just seemed to fit nice and well. And also, since I'm using buttons to activate it, it let me add them in here, giving it almost that like nailed look for the rafters. Upstairs is going to be a complete work in progress. Like I said, I hope it doesn't seem anticlimactic, but this was kind of a midstream change to what I want to do. I've got a spare room over there that I haven't figured out what to do with yet. And on this side, I've got my bulk storage with all of the stuff like cobblestone, stone, blackstone, all that stuff over here. The things that I need in bulk. Then over here, I've got all of the stuff that I need in smaller amounts, but I want to know where it is. Things like extra building materials, fuel, raw materials, my redstone supplies, even down there, some extra chests for different items from exploring the world that just don't fit anywhere else. And speaking of exploring, I do have to say that I mentioned last episode that I went to a village, and well, while I'm still looking for patches, I did bring home a little friend, and so now I'm going to be welcoming Snowflake to the party. And so, Snowflake, it's nice to have you here. Now, last up, well, almost last up, I did want to put my nether portal here. I'm kind of glad I did because this makes it so that when I walk straight in this direction, I go straight into the nether tunnel. I don't have to turn around. And walking back in, I can just kind of have it flows really well coming back and forth. Um, and then over here, I decided instead of setting up a mine entrance somewhere out there in the area, since my storage system is right here, and I've got my input chest right up here, I figured why not put my mine right here? So I used the old method of digging on 2 blocks to dig down. So now when I need to go into my mine, just push the button and I can drop down to regular diamond level. And if I need deep slate, I also can just drop down here. And I'm all ready to gather materials. One other thing that was really, really great is the fact that if you look up in the upper left-hand corner of my screen, you'll notice that according to the biome, we're in a lush cave. And I actually didn't dig far before I started seeing things like moss and um, glowberries and clay. So I'm actually really excited about that because it looks like I actually lost a block there. I'm really excited about that because it means that I'm looking forward to exploring all through that area and hopefully finding some interesting stuff buried here in the lush caves. And then once I actually once I'm done mining, the nice part is that I can come straight back up in, and my input chest is right there, so that I can get my stuff sent off into storage and get on the way to more adventures. But that is going to wrap things up for today. I'm really excited for how the base is starting out and the fact that, well, I have a system in place, I know where my stuff is, and I've got a better idea of what I've got to work with. And to be honest, I'm starting to get an idea of where this base is going to go and what it's going to look like as the season progresses. For now, though, I have another project that kind of got started off camera. And, well, once again, it's up to me to help a few of the locals with their pillager problems. But that's going to have to wait till next time. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, and also consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. My name is Glitch, and I do hope I'll see you next time for the next episode on the Paperhats Survival Multiplayer server. Thanks for watching.